Hey there, and welcome to Fan Theory Queries, where we analyze fan theories from all over the internet, but mostly Reddit. I'm Lara.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And I'm Blythe.
What? What's going on here?
Who?
Where did you come from?
Blythe.
Okay, so
No, the
I
vast
remember
multiverse.
you. Yes.
Ah.
This is for everyone. This is Blythe Sewell, the cooler, more sophisticated Sewell sibling, brother to Mike or sister
So
to
true.
Michael, co-host of the Fan Theory Queries podcast. We're glad to have you as a guest theorizer.
Oh,
Thank
some
you.
of us are
Glad to
glad.
be here. He just put
Blythe.
up with it.
Yes, Blythe will be joining us. She has chosen her own theory for us to a fascinating one, and I'm excited to get to talk about it, and excited to have you join our discussions. Are you, Lara? Are you happy that she's with us?
I'm so excited because she shares a lot of interests with me that you two might not, at least not to the level that we have. So this is going to be good.
I guess we'll find out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, with that out of the way, let's get started. I'll get things kicked off with this theory from Toy Story 3 from user London Garbage Man. And the theory is Sid became a garbage man to save toys. In Toy Story 1, Sid is confronted with horrifying revelation that his toys are alive. 15 years later, in Toy Story 3, we see that Sid has become the local garbage man. Now, being a garbage man has one of the biggest perks that you may not have realized. We find things. Lots of things. So in this guy's post, he shows lots of pictures because he's a garbage man. And so he says, I even found a 42-gallon trash bag full of Legos. Some trash-picked Nerf collection. I don't have a picture of the Matchbox cards I've found because there's just too many. And don't even get me started on the Barbies. Now, let's imagine you're a guy who just learned that inanimate objects are alive. What job would you get? Sid isn't messed up and working a crappy job. He's trying to save them. He's trying to save the toys. He picked the one kind of job where you can rescue those things. And Sid is uniquely equipped to fix those toys that he finds that are broken. He's pretty creative. So that's the theory. Sid, having a traumatic experience, vows, like Batman and other heroes, to, instead of doing evil, save these toys and give them a second lease on life after being found in the trash can or dumpsters.
Very true.
Let's start with Lara. What do you think of this theory? You're the one that found it.
So it excites me, this theory, just to think of this man has been working as a garbage man, driving around, and then related himself with that character and started thinking about it and equating. I love that he found an example in his own life to formulate this theory with. That's so awesome. I love that.
Yeah. What I like is, like, he uses all of his real life experiences and just pieces it all together. And one of the things I read through some of the comments is like trying to like redeem this idea that the job of garbage man is not just for losers or people who, you know, aren't worth anything, that it's actually a pretty cool job and you can get paid a lot. And, you know, a lot of people choose to do the job because they like it. It's cool, not just because they can't amount to anything else. And so, twisting that into this theory, I think, is really neat. But as far as like the validity of it, Blythe, what are you thinking?
Oh, man. I have to say, first of all, London Garbage Man, love the name. But I think because he is an actual garbage man, he has convinced me to an extent as to Sid's reasoning for being a garbage man. However, I am questioning his motives. I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that Sid from Toy Story has had this big revelation in his life and is now this sweet, tender, caring man who became a garbage man just to save all these toys. I do think that the toys could be the reason for him to be a garbage man, but I could also see it having like a darker twist of,
Yes.
you know, you saw his science experiments of those toys when he was a kid. So this experience of seeing them come alive could have had kind of the opposite effect on him, I think, where he's now seeking his revenge and, grabbing all these toys and doing even more experiments with them now that he knows that they come alive. If you think of like, if we found that out in real life, or any phenomenon you find out in real life, all these scientists or government agencies are going to experiment and study these specimens. I think that he may be doing the same thing. So I don't know. He has me convinced as to part of it, but his motives, I'm not quite sure.
I'm with you. That was one of my big questions when I read it was, okay, I could see him doing this. He's trying to save them. He's trying to save the toys or whatever. But like, then what? If he saves these toys from going into an incinerator or whatever, and he just make a big pile of them, what happens next? Does he give them away? That's kind of something left out of this theory of what he does with these things. And that's part of making a fan theory, is filling all the gaps, not just leaving it to us to fill in more gaps. Right, Michael?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for like a good redemption story for villains and stories, but I don't know. We all know that Sid actually grew up to be part of a fake family with Jason Bateman and Jennifer Aniston and go on this road trip where they smuggle drugs. So
I didn't.
That's the story that he's got. That's the truth. That's in my mind. That's the truth. So while this is a good theory, like,
but no, wait a minute. Let's back up here. What is this thing you're speaking of?
Lara, Blythe, do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it Jason? I thought it was Jason Sudeikis. Was it Jason Bateman?
Is it Jason Sudeikis? It's
What's
one of the
name
Jasons.
of the movie?
I don't remember.
One of the Jasons.
We're the Millers.
I can't remember the name. Yes.
So, Spencer, there's a movie called We're the Millers, and either Jason Sudeikis or Jason Bateman, whichever one it is, has to basically smuggle drugs, essentially, and he has to create a fake family. And so he gets Jennifer Aniston, this actor who looks exactly like Sudeikis. I've seen it once, and it was years ago. But yeah, this actor looks exactly like what Sid would look like if he grew up and got rid of his braces. And so, to me, I'm just convinced that anything that this guy plays is grown-up Sid.
He's going to be playing Adam Warlock.
I saw that. I saw that.
Guy.
Talk about a redemption story.
I think if he maybe dyed his hair black with a buzz cut and like a little black tint, maybe he could look like Sid, but...
In We're the Millers, his hair looks a little bit more like Sid's. It's not completely buzzed, if I remember correctly, but it's darker than it is. I think he actually dyed it blonder for this role of Adam Warlock.
Gotcha.
That's funny.
I think he was also the cousin on Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I'm pretty sure, when he was younger.
Possibly.
I could be wrong.
It's funny.
Anyway, that's my thought.
Go ahead.
I have to say, as Blythe was talking, and you talked about maybe his revelation of the toys are alive took a darker turn. I went towards the darker turn, but then my path branched off and went this way, as in he's now so terrified and traumatized by what happened. He's trying to make amends and make sure that he is never tortured or like traumatized by these toys again, as just like here, you're free, just don't bother me. and he's getting him out of the trash of just don't bother me, and yeah, here you go, you're fine now, you're not gonna get burned up. Like that's where I went when you were talking.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I did find a couple comments beneath the post on Reddit, and the first one that I don't know why he didn't include this in the post itself, but it's from the OP, London Garbage Man. I had an aha moment when someone brought up Sid in an Ask Reddit thread concerning misunderstood antagonists. They said that Sid was being punished as a garbage man for torturing his toys as a kid. I knew better. Being a garbage man is awesome. Yeah, it's a thankless, smelly job that is tedious. You just have to search for your own rewards. Mine is finding stuff for my kids. Plus, I can't help but feel nice giving stuff that someone threw away a second chance. The ending to Toy Story 3 was an especially hard punch in the feels. So maybe Sid has kids that he's collecting these toys for. I don't know. Who would marry that?
And he had a sister, so maybe he's got nieces and nephews.
Yeah, that's true. Another person, Nameless88, says, I really, really like this. You just took a throwaway, the puns, moment in the third movie and made it into something really kind of beautiful. So, yeah, just depends on how you want to look at it. There is cause for him to do this. We don't know, but it could be a beautiful thing, or it could be more of a terrifying thing, depending on which way you want to go. Does anybody have anything to add to this? Any more points to discuss?
I don't think so. That was a pretty, short and sweet theory.
Yeah. So, meaning that it's time for us to rate the theory. Michael, why don't you explain our rating scale really quick?
Okay, so the highest rating that we have is genius. This is reserved only for like the best theories, which we believe are better than the actual canon that's presented. The next step down is plausible, where it's a good theory, but it's just believable. Next down is unlikely. This is not a terrible theory, but it's pretty unlikely, as the name says. And then last, we have preposterous, which these theories are just stupid, and we're all dumber for having listened to them.
Yeah. All right, so we'll put you on the spot for being a guest. Blythe, what is your rating of this theory?
Okay, I think I'm going to have to go with plausible, but on the verge of genius. I think this is a great theory. I love that we have explored a little more of the character of Sid, because I always enjoyed that character. And I like that there could be some deeper things going on besides just, oh, he just happened to be a garbage man. Plus, Disney always has these secret things intertwined into all of their movies. I think it's totally possible. I think maybe if we had a little more evidence on if it was a darker turn, or if he had this beautiful revelation where he's really trying to help these toys, or even what Lara said, it could be genius. I think we're almost there, but I would say a strong plausible.
Great. Good one. Good ranking and explanation of your ranking. Lara, your turn.
I'm going to go squarely in the middle of plausible on this. And again, Blythe, you compliment me so well on the way we think here. You talked about exploring it more. There have been a ton of Toy Story shorts, and they are excellent at coming up with those. And this could definitely be a short story. And whether it's exploring more about Sid or the toys that he's rescued from the trash, that could be totally fun. Of whether it's toy rehab or letting them loose into the wild, and there's some kind of wild toy encampment somewhere out in the woods where all these go. Like that could be so much fun.
I love this.
So,
Yeah.
I love this.
Let's write it.
Yes.
Send it over to Pixar.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hire us, Pixar.
Michael, what do you
Right?
got?
I am actually going to agree with them. I think this is a solid plausible. I don't think it's quite to the level of genius, but like I said before, I like a good redemption story, and I would like to think that Sid is trying to turn his life around after he was traumatized as a kid, realized how horrible he was, and so now he's doing, like the OP said, a thankless job to try and make the world a better place and provide these toys with a new home.
Great. Well, Toy Story was probably my first love when it comes to Disney movies, and so it's very special to me. And so that might have an effect on my rating that this, I think, is a genius theory. Yes, we've pointed out that there are a few missing pieces. I think that the idea just that he came up with, filling in the gaps of what is Sid doing? Oh, haha, he's a garbage man. Wait a minute. No, he's actually doing something because of this experience that he's had. He's turned over. He's had a lot of time to think about what he's done in his previous life, the previous part of his life. He's reflecting, gosh, what a terrible person I am. How can I redeem myself? How can I balance the scales, so to speak? I know. I'm going to save these toys and get them to somebody that really needs them, really deserves them. And hey, he may even have his own room, his own collection of toys that he plays with, and he's like, hey, toys, I know you're alive, so let's just cut this non-alive stuff out and we'll just have fun together. That's what I would do.
True redemption.
Yes.
Yes.
So Sid is living the dream with toys that are alive.
Yep.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Great.
Love it.
All right. Well, before I hand it over to Michael for the next theory, I want to take a quick moment to address our dear listeners, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Would you take a quick second and leave us a 5-star rating? Because we all know we've earned it. And hey, if you're feeling extra generous, how about writing a review made of positive words like amazing, best podcast ever? Why isn't this show number 1 on the podcast charts? We'd really appreciate it. All right, Michael, over to you.
All right. This theory is from Benji Wenji. In Harry Potter, every student could actually fit into 2 houses, is the title of this theory. So the theory goes, every witch and wizard can't be placed in only one of 4 houses as there's too much variety in people. It's more likely that every student could fit into 2 houses. So the sorting hat helps figure out which one of these 2. For example, Harry could go into Gryffindor or Slytherin, but because he just met Malfoy and has been told that there's not a witch or wizard alive that has gone bad that wasn't in Slytherin, so he asks the sorting hat to not put him in Slytherin, even though he could be great in there. Like Harry tells his son later on, the sorting hat takes what you want into account. So as another example, Ron could go into Gryffindor or Hufflepuff, but because of the pressure of his family all having gone into Gryffindor and 3 of his brothers are at the Gryffindor table, so he asks for Gryffindor. Hermione could go into Gryffindor or Ravenclaw because she's brilliant, but the only people she's really met have been sorted into Gryffindor, and she asks for that because, as OP says, she's a lonely 11-year-old girl who likely has already read books about how her blood status will make her a pariah in some circles. I've always just loved that it wasn't so simple. Can't remember where I saw it before, but I've always loved it. So that's their theory. Before we start talking about it, I want to read this one highlighted comment, and then we'll kind of dive into this. Allie Kitty 85 comments that she says, I like this theory, but one quick point on Hermione. She was sorted before Harry or Ron, so she wouldn't ask to be placed in Gryffindor because of them. It is possible that from reading Hogwarts: A History that she knew Gryffindor was preferable, though. So that's a good point. So I'll just kick it off since this was the theory that I chose. I really like this. I like the idea that there really isn't just one option for everybody, and that there is a possibility you could go into 2 different places. Like, for example, for me, whenever I did the official test or
Pottermore.
whatever to, yes, Pottermore, I couldn't think of the word. Whenever I did that, I was sorted into Ravenclaw, which is fitting for me. But honestly, I probably could have gone into Gryffindor as well. I have some Gryffindor tendencies, but it's just that Ravenclaw was more suited for me. So I like that, and Blythe's laughing because she probably doesn't agree with me. Hufflepuff
No,
over
I'm
there.
kidding.
I'm a Hufflepuff too.
No, so
Nerds.
Of course.
So anyway, I like that they accounted for the line where they talk about how the sorting hat takes into account what you want. That explains that line a little bit more, fleshes it out a little bit more, and makes it add a little more gravity to this theory. So yeah, I like this idea. I think it's fairly reasonable. What do you guys think?
My question would be, like, we'll just use Harry for example. I can see why he could go into Slytherin and Gryffindor, but why couldn't he be Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw?
Honestly,
that's
there are
like,
there are other fan theories out there about just Harry Potter's character in general, and I would hold up one of those as being why he couldn't be a Hufflepuff is because he's actually a big jerk. He's rude. He really is. He's mean, and he can be rude to people, and that doesn't fit
you would
in Hufflepuff.
too if you had to sleep in a place under the stairs your whole life. Maybe.
I can't really speak to that.
Okay, so what about Ravenclaw? Why can't he be in Ravenclaw?
He doesn't study hard enough.
Okay, so this might be a case of me not knowing what makes you what, other than if you're mean, you're in Slytherin.
In case it wasn't obvious already, Spencer is not a Harry Potter fan. At least not to our degree. I made him watch the movies a while back.
You didn't make me. I wanted to. I read through Goblet of Fire. I didn't read beyond that.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything to
Blythe, what do you think?
comment?
I know you have thoughts.
I really do like this theory. I think that it's kind of like almost any personality test or Enneagram, if you will. Some people can fit into multiples of those. It really depends on the person. I think that, and also I think nature versus nurture comes into play with a lot of this too. Where did they live? How did they grow up? What people have they been around in their lives outside of just what is their personality? What are their motives? I think some characters could probably fit into more than just 2. So I kind of agree with you to an extent, Spencer, not necessarily specifically Harry Potter fitting into Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw, but I think that there are characters that could fit more than just 2. But I do like this. I as well took Pottermore, who hasn't taken that quiz. And okay, well, I'm sad for you.
I should have said something instead of raising my hand because this is an audio medium after all.
I have tested into a couple different ones, but the one that I got most often and the one that after reading everything, watching all the movies, understanding the houses better, that fit me the best was Hufflepuff. But I feel like that's kind of the same as Harry asking the Sorting Hat to put him into Gryffindor. He may have fit in Slytherin, but he had some choice in the matter. So I like this theory.
Right, I agree. I think if I remember correctly, we're about to get super nerdy. After it was announced that they were going to be making Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, you were able to test for Ilvermorny Academy and be placed in a house there as well. And I think when you did that test, you were told your secondary house choice, if I remember correctly. Like, you were told that dual, like, you tested high in this one as well, but we're going to place you in this house. I feel like that's what it was. And so that's why I'm going to agree with this. Also, there are just so many things, at least on Pottermore, there were multiple personality tests for whatever, for your wand, for your Patronus, for your house. It could be a number of things. So yeah, you fit in a bunch of different things. So I will agree.
I think
with
I did
that,
do
yeah.
the Patronus test. What were the
Any
options
chance
like?
you remember what you got?
What were some of the options? I think it was a rabbit an option?
Yes.
I think it was a rabbit.
Okay. Very cool.
I don't remember
I think
that.
mine was like a
Fascinating.
ferret or something.
I don't remember what mine was either.
Okay, well,
But, yeah.
I think that pretty much sums up our conversation. So why don't we get to rating this one? Spencer, what do you think?
I'm going to say it's unlikely. I'm going to say that I think that there are reasons why everybody could be put into everyone, and it has to be narrowed down into one. So if it's not all 4, then it's just 1, not 2 or 3, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
But it's not preposterous because I don't feel dumber. I can see, like, you make the case for it, and clearly you people aren't dumb. The fact that that's the fact, I will say that it is unlikely.
Very good.
Cool.
I
Blythe,
guess
you
I'll
wanna go
jump
next?
in. Or, yeah, Blythe,
Oh.
hit it.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say plausible. I don't think it's genius level, but I do think that it's highly possible depending on the person that they could fit into 2 or more houses. That's it. I don't really have much else to say.
Yeah.
Lara.
This is a pretty cut and dried theory. Like, there for a minute, I started thinking to myself about, like, the Sorting Hat is also kind of playing, like, some damage control of making sure that numbers are equal in the houses just to make sure there's enough room. And then I went, wait a second. They're in a magic castle. They don't need to worry too much
Yeah.
about having enough beds for everybody.
No.
When you've got things like the, it's like a room that'll pop up with whatever you need in it whenever you need it. So, I mean, it's plausible. Yeah. And that's really all there is to say.
Cool. Well,
What about you,
as a
Michael?
Ravenclaw, I'm gonna have to rate this one as genius. And it's not just because I chose the theory. I really like this idea. I'm really behind this idea, and honestly, I would like to think that this is actually part of the canon in my own head. Because like you guys said, and when we were talking, like, nobody fits into just this little box. Like, there's a lot more to a person than just one set of attributes, and so it could go either way depending on, like Blythe said, how you're raised, the environment that you're raised in, the people you're around, that you spend your time with. So yeah, I'm gonna go with genius on this one. I love
Maybe you
it.
stepped in a puddle that day and we're having a bad day.
Maybe.
Okay.
Guys, who's ready to discuss whether or not Captain America poops a lot?
Ooh, me.
I am.
Me.
I am.
Well, too bad, because you have to wait until after this brief message break. Don't go anywhere.
So we're back, and let's go over to the poop expert to discuss this theory. Tell us about your theory, or the theory that you
All right.
want to discuss.
I should have had my poop emoji pillow with me. To put
Aw.
This theory is Captain America, MCU. Captain America poops a lot. This is from Mr. T squared 88. So Mr. T times Mr. T 88.
Ah, I like
It's
it.
amazing.
It says, In Captain America, the First Avenger, after Bucky falls off the train, Steve tells Peggy that he can't get drunk because of the super soldier serum. She tells him that his metabolism is 4 times the amount of an average human. That means he eats 4 times as much food, which makes sense. Similar to how Olympic athletes need to have insane diets. Cap probably does as well. But this also means he takes either 1, incredibly massive poops that are 4 times the size of normal poops, or 2, he poops 4 times as often as a normal person. meaning, okay, I gotta get through this. Meaning that during the entire Battle of New York in the Avengers, Steve probably was clenching his beehole because he would have had to go really bad and wouldn't have gotten a chance to. Okay. So there are some comments that I want to talk about that were on this post. And of course, I have just a tidbit of science to talk about. But I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say first. Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a pretty crappy theory.
Oh, you went there.
Wow.
I had to. No, I mean, I like it. I think it's funny. Anytime you have any sort of theory about poop, I think it's funny just because I'm a child. But yes, so I think it's a decent one. I think this is just kind of taking a narrative element a little too far. This is one of those instances where people are like really like it's like, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but it's like a lot of Star Trek fans. They know like the exact dimensions of every ship and every little inner workings of all the ships and everything, and the reasoning behind all the choices that are made in those shows. And I think sometimes you just have to kind of give a little grace with things and just not think too hard about it and just enjoy things for what they are. But
What you're saying is we shouldn't care about how much he poops.
Sure, yeah. It never would have crossed my mind to even think about that before. I just accepted that he has a higher metabolism. So sure, it works. He's found a way to make it work. But I mean, the thought of him having to like stop in the middle of a battle to poop is pretty funny.
I think Mr. T squared 88 pities a fool who doesn't care about poop.
Okay.
Nice.
So if he has to eat a lot, I will say there's a little bit of a credit to that immediately after the Battle of New York and the post-credits scene, we see the team, but most importantly, Cap eating the shawarma stuff.
Shawarma.
So he has to eat a lot. It's got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't think it's
What
going
about-
to America? Never mind. I better beep.
I almost made that joke, but I held off.
What joke? I don't know what you're going to
yes.
say.
That's America's.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say maybe he's having to clench and hold it in during the battles, and that's why it's so tight all the time.
That's a good workout.
Just adding to the
He could
evidence.
never dirty the stars and stripes like that.
No.
No.
No. I love that.
Red,
Okay.
red, white, and blue, not red, white, and brown and blue.
Oh man.
I like thinking
Okay,
about the
I'll let somebody
idea
else
of,
talk.
of somebody walking out of Captain America: The First Avenger, like with a group of friends, like we've done before. We've gone to a movie, we walk out, we start talking about, oh, did you notice this? And da, 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 da. People are talking about, oh my gosh, Becky, do you think that he's gonna come back as Winter Soldier? And this dude's like, I don't know, but y'all think about the fact that he probably has to poop a lot since his metabolism is 4 times. Like, that's what this person walked away from the movie thinking about.
Yeah.
That's I love
His
that.
mind went there. Yeah.
Yes. Because there's nothing else about the movie, to get things turning. Nah. Stuck on that detail, which is in still in the first act, wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yes.
So what about some of those comments?
SM Kare says, unless Cap has an incredibly powerful and efficient nuclear fusion reactor in his body, able to use any food as fuel, similar to Mr. Fusion from BTTF, and convert the mass directly into energy, the mass of the food he ingests has to go somewhere after he metabolizes its chemical energy. He is not getting fatter or gaining significant muscle mass, so the mass is definitely leaving his body somehow.
Somehow.
Yes,
And-
which isn't necessarily poop.
Right.
How else?
BTTF is Back to the Future, by the way.
Yes. Yes. So let me share a little bit. A couple of these comments. Well, I'm going to say this one first. Is it Vincitus? Vincatus? I'm not sure how to say that one.
Yeah.
They say, my guess is that he takes huge poops that he blames on the Hulk, which I think is quite hilarious. Great. There's a couple other comments that do actually go into a little bit of some accurate science, but I will just say I do teach science to middle schoolers and high schoolers. So we do talk about our digestive and excretory systems quite a lot throughout the year. And you don't just release waste through poop. You actually exhale a lot of your waste. A lot of those nutrients are, as you use it for energy, are converted into carbon dioxide and water. So you exhale a lot of that waste through your lungs. They're actually considered the main excretory organs in your body. And then a lot of it is lost as water, which is filtered through your kidneys. And then that would be what you pee out. Now, I will say some things that I was thinking about when I was reading this theory. I do agree that the more you eat, probably the more you will poop because you have more waste that you're going to form from that. However, he's saying that if he eats 4 times as much food, that he's going to take or have poops that are 4 times the size, or he's going to poop 4 times as often. It's not exactly like a 1-to-1 ratio of that. Like if you eat twice as much food, you're going to poop twice as often or twice as large stool sizes, I should say. A lot of that is really dependent on the types of foods you're eating. So like if Cap is eating foods that are not nutritious at all, then he's probably going to have more waste than if he was eating foods that had a lot of nutrients in them, a lot of those sugars that he uses for energy. Also, if he's eating things that are high in fiber, he probably is going to poop more often. So the types of foods he's eating is probably almost more important than the amount of food he's eating as to how much he poops out. But we also have to keep in mind that he has been injected with super soldier serum, so he is a superhuman. So it is quite possible that he can use or gain more energy from things that our bodies may not be able to process as well. So he may actually be getting more out of the food he eats and using more of it, which then in turn, he would actually have less waste if you think about it. But a couple of these comments that get into the science of that, this name, Kreyezhasek. I'm not sure how to say that. It's a jumble of letters. Kreyezhasek. You have to say it like that. Says, so fun fact, more than 80% of the weight you lose by burning calories is exhaled as carbon dioxide, which I talked about. All organic material that we consume is carbon-based with hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen making up most of the rest and trace amounts of other elements. Maybe instead of pooping, he's just burping and farting all the time. Which is highly
I
possible.
can see that
I'm sure
happening.
if he's eating shawarma all the time, you know?
Yep.
And then the last comment that I thought was good is from Guy V. It says, this is a classic case of not carrying the superpower thing to its narrative end. Cap is the pinnacle of the good human evolution. He has realistic control over his bowels and endurance levels and when to speed up or slow down his metabolism. He could repack his colon, expel gas expertly, and otherwise prepare his body for a variety of lengths of missions. This also means that what he eats gets super used to its fullest metabolic content. I contend that Cap literally only poops in microparticles. I think he also has a weird sort of control for how much energy he keeps in reserve fat, almost like he's able to adjust it on the fly and be able to do this all day. Now, here's my question, though.
What about
I'm not
do this all day?
Yes. So good. So good. Apparently you can do this all day as well with the poop puns.
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you that know Cap's powers a little bit better than I do you really think he could control his bowel movements and control the level of his metabolism on his own?
Hey,
I just think
Dwight
that, like,
Schrute
this is
claims to be able to control his blood pressure. I mean,
just something
and he's a
that's
mere
not-
mortal, just a German man.
I was gonna say he's clearly superhuman.
Very true.
It's something that's not explored by most superhuman beings. It's just a side of that we don't get, unfortunately. I would love to have a science, like a whole book on the science of superhero digestive systems, but we don't have that. Unfortunately, I just don't think there's any kind of reference point for this. Do you know of anything, Michael?
Not off the top of my head. Yeah, the closest thing that I can think of comics actually going into a little bit of the science behind bodily functions and superheroes is not even related to the digestive system. It's more the metabolism side of things with Deadpool and Wolverine and like their metabolisms and healing factors and stuff. And then with the Flash as well, he has a hyperactive metabolism from the Speed Force. Yeah, it doesn't really delve too deeply into digestive stuff from what I can remember.
That's a good point. I remember in the first season of the Flash where he's eating a lot. Like they make a point of saying, I have to eat so much more because my metabolism is so much faster. But they never once mention Flash poop. I'm gonna
so quickly.
He's running all the time.
He's got the run.
It just
Oh.
I like to think that he just
poop.
goes as he's running, and he's running so quickly that it just vaporizes as it comes out.
No.
I'm just going to say
it biodegrades as fast as he runs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've arrived at my opinion on this one.
Go for it.
I'm ready to rate.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I don't want to go first. Who? Michael, have you gone first before?
I have.
Lara hasn't gone
have
first.
You gone?
I don't know. Okay, I'll do it anyway.
You can go
though.
first.
I'll say it's plausible. I could totally see if any of the Avengers, Cat being the one that, you know, when you like travel somewhere with like a mom and she's always like, but where's the nearest bathroom? That it would be Cap that would be asking that question. We're gonna go like the airport in Civil War. When they show up at the airport, like, but where's the nearest bathroom? Before we start, everybody, hold on. Before we start, and you could totally check that.
It.
Yep. So I guess I'll go with plausible. Just when you go on you can't go too far into the scientific stuff with this though, because then if you're going to go into that about like the mass intake has to go into, it's got to be displaced and put out somewhere. Well, then when he got injected with the super soldier serum, where did all the mass that formed his muscles come from? If it came from the serum, then what was, I don't know. So you have to have some kind of little bit of just suspension of disbelief there. So I'll go with plausible.
Okay. I'll go with unlikely. As funny as it is, and I love the idea of imagining, like, I'm not imagining him pooping, but just the situations that would arise from something like this. I just think that with all of the activity that he does, you know, he's breathing a lot when he's running around. I mean, maybe during, you know, lulls in action, maybe when he doesn't have the opportunity to burn off all of that.
Runs down an alley and takes a poop.
I'm going to say that he probably, most likely, poops like the rest of us. But, yeah, that's where I'm landing.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Spencer on this. Well, I think this is a great theory, and I love talking about it. I can talk about poop for for days, but I don't think that it's very, very likely that it's actual truth. Yeah, I just don't see this being an issue, really. I think it's just one of those things that you have to kind of let go and just accept that, yeah, he has a faster metabolism, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he poops a lot.
So, Blythe, are we more or less mature than your junior high students?
I would say still more mature than my middle school students.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought we made a decent job of trying to be immature about it. So.
Too.
Yep.
I will say when we do get to the digestive system, I actually shock them with the number of poop jokes that I say in class.
Nice.
But they can't handle that. But yeah, I'd say we're still a lot more mature than my middle school students. As far as my rating, I'm going to have to give this an unlikely, mainly because of the trying to quantify the amount of poop and how often that they used in the theory. I love this theory. I love thinking about it, talking about it. I love getting into the science of it. I do think it gets really complicated because we don't have enough details. But I would argue that Cat probably has healthier poops than any of us.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to give this an unlikely.
For me, that's not a
All right.
very high bar.
Let's swing away
Same.
from the scientific and go in the completely opposite direction with this theory from the Super Carlin brothers, which I saw in a reel on Instagram. But apparently they made a video about it on YouTube back in 2017 and just like recycled it recently. But this is about Mother Gothel from Tangled is Meg from Hercules. That they are one and the
Interesting.
same person. All right, so Meg, of course, existed in ancient Greece and Mother Gothel over in Germany, centuries apart. But this really isn't a problem because there's a golden magical flower that maintains her youth. But where did this flower come from? That's where things get interesting. Eugene gives us a bit of an origin story. From this small drop of sun grew a magic golden flower. And this scene, this animation that we see where the magic golden sun drop falls to earth matches another scene from Disney perfectly. When Hercules is taken from Olympus down to earth. Remember, like Pain and Panic have stolen him out of the little crib and they're flying him down. They match very well with the clouds and everything. There's clouds first and then they dissipate a little and then you can see the ground. They both do it. It's really interesting to watch. Meaning it's not a sun drop, but a sun drop. S-O-N. Hades even calls Hercules the little sunspot. And not to mention, Hades is literally trying to drain Hercules of his immortality in this very scene, and that's exactly what the flower provides. Not to mention, we have a vague idea of how far away the flower is from the kingdom of Corona, when Eugene is talking about it being a hop, skip, and a boat ride away. Personally, I'm not a big geography person, but Germany and Greece apparently are a lot closer together than you think. And the real question here, though, is how far do you think that the king would be willing to go to save his pregnant, dying wife, who is also the queen? He'd go the distance. Yeah, it's a good one. Okay. But the question is, how and why would Meg become so twisted and turn into Mother Gothel? And the answer isn't immortality, but rather mortality. Because remember, at the end of Hercules, he gives up his immortality, his place with the gods, to live a mortal life with Meg. And what happens if, after giving up that immortality, Meg outlives Hercules? What lengths do you think she might go to try to fix the situation? Literal lengths, like trying to find the last remaining trace of where a god first touched Earth, or more specifically, where Hercules first touched Earth, which is, of course, where she would find the flower. Also consider the song she sings to the flower in order to get its powers to work. Make the clock reverse, bring back what once was mine. I always wondered, how does she know what to sing to the flower to get it to work? And then it occurred to me, what if it didn't start with her singing, but rather pleading with the flower? That is pleading to bring back her dead husband. And then the song continues, change the fates design. That's a capital F, fates. And as in the fates from Greek mythology. And those ladies are also in Hercules. They're the three ladies cutting people's lifelines. And they're responsible for ending mortals' lives and sending them down to the underworld where Hades is. And at the end of Tangled, why does Mother Gothel agree to let Rapunzel save Eugene? She holds all the cards in this situation. Well, it's because Meg lives deep down inside of Mother Gothel and made the exact same deal once upon a time. Hades gives us that backstory when he says, you sold your soul to me to save your boyfriend's life. All right, so Super Carlin Brothers are telling us Meg is in there, and if that doesn't convince you, let me end with this. When Hercules is in Thebes, and he has lifted the boulder down in the quarry to save Pain and Panic, who are in disguise as trapped children, Meg is out of sight with Hades and says to herself, get out of there, you big lug, while you still can. And when Mother Gothel has been watching Rapunzel and Eugene through the window of the Snuggly Duckling, and the short thug, the one that dresses up like Cupid, stumbles out and hits on her, she says, oh, you big...
Interesting.
You know, it's
It's a
funny.
very well thought out and written theory.
It's well thought out. And then there's a website called Down the Theory Hole that took it a step further. So I did not share any of this with you because I didn't want you to have pre-knowledge of what I'm about to share with you. But in the actual Hercules myth, he had 4 wives, but 2 of them were goddesses. And it seems that the actual Hercules movie from Disney combined his 2 mortal wives together into Megara. And he at this point, he's given up his immortality and is with her. And so unfortunate events happen that she's been kidnapped by somebody, and Hercules shoots this bad guy with a poison arrow. And before he gives Meg back to Hercules, he gives her what he says is a love potion, but it's actually the poison from the arrow that Hercules shot her with. And then later on, Hercules' eye starts wandering, and so she gets that love potion out and gives it to Hercules and poisons him and kills him.
Oh.
So
Wow.
that adds an extra layer to this of her guilt drives her to keep looking for that flower. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah.
that's the theory that
Very interesting.
Megara became Mother Gothel.
I like it.
Yeah, me too.
I will say that there are lots of words into this theory, and as far as the points go, I like all of them. Like the big thing that I would just, if I were to put something in there to say, no, this isn't real, is just the actual last bit of proof they provide is that they both say big lug. There are writers that might say the same words. Or how many times have you called me big lug, Lara? I mean, it's just
0.
it's in everybody's vocabulary. But I mean, I think it's solid. I don't have really, if you want to really be specific and like poke holes in it that really you think about, I guess you probably could, but I don't want to. What else does everybody else think?
I think that your point about the whole you big lug thing is actually kind of the opposite of the way you presented it, because it isn't something that's just normal conversation. It's not something that somebody says every day. So it makes more sense that it would be the same person using that phrase 2 times in 2 different stories. So I think this is a great theory. I'm all on board with it. There's not really much that I can say to add to it because they really thought this one out well. There's a lot of great evidence and great points and stuff. Yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm gonna let you guys speak. I know you two are gonna have some great thoughts on it, so I'm just gonna give you guys more time.
I love this theory. I will say as I was listening to it, I think there are a lot of good pieces of evidence here, but I agree with Michael. The thing that really sold it for me was the "you big lug," because it's not just in most people's everyday vernacular. And yes, some writers may want to use the same things, but I just feel like these 2 characters have very similar mannerisms. Outside of just saying that, I feel like they talk in a similar way. They carry themselves in a similar way with a similar attitude.
Gesture.
Yes. And I know the animation is different, obviously. But if you look at Meg's hair, it has the curls on the end, so I could see her hair being curlier and a little more wiry as it gets gray and darkens as she gets older. So I could see them being the same person. I will say, I almost didn't want to agree with this because it kind of makes me sad. I really wanted
Megara.
Yes, I really wanted her to have just this sweet, happy ending with Hercules, just because that's what you want out of almost any Disney movie, right? At least when you're a kid watching these. But man, I just feel like this is so solid. There's just too many things pointing to it, and I could totally see Disney doing something sneaky like this because they know there's going to be people that look for all these clues, right? They do it every time. So I just love it. The Fates as well, being a capital F in the song. Why is it a capital F if they're not referencing the Fates? Yep. I just, the image of Hercules being brought down to earth and the same image as the sun with the flower. There's just so many things that link it. And then that extra little tidbit you brought, Laura, I think that really just ties a nice little ribbon on there.
There's a lot more on that website that's down the theory hole. But I'm going to agree with you about the song. That's what really ties it together for me. When you think about that extra bit I talked about of she accidentally killed Hercules. So when she's pleading with the flower, bring back what once was mine. that she's pleading for her husband to come back, and actually all it gives is a little bit of his immortality essence that he had for a little while. And there's also the imagery so much of the sun associated with Hercules, and that it's a sun drop. That's just all. I love this theory.
Yeah.
And it's like the same color, the magic of the flower and Rapunzel's hair is like the same color as the god, as Hercules was, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
when he
whenever
was
he's
his
glowing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
So
absolutely.
you heard it here first, folks. It's confirmed that Rapunzel is a descendant of Hercules.
What?
Oh, she's got his essence in him. Okay.
Oh,
in
yeah.
her.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, because the
Man.
flower.
Okay.
I like that.
Would Zeus let her come visit then?
She could swing up there on
We're
her
opening
hair.
up the possibilities for a whole new storyline.
There you go.
That's something a lot of people were trying to discredit this when you talk about the Tangled series. That is not an account
Yeah.
for me. That's not even personally canon. I've never watched it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count it because apparently her hair is long again. And I'm like, no, it got cut.
Oh.
It doesn't grow back.
Zero
She
interest.
appeared in Frozen with it cut. We're not going there. Sorry.
Yeah, that wouldn't even
that's
make
right.
sense as far as the canon if in the series
don't
she
know
has
how.
long hair again.
I know. I've never
Yeah.
watched it, so I don't know how they fit it in there. But apparently it's supposed to explain a bunch of some of this stuff, but we're not going there. We're not
Yeah, no thanks.
counting that. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Man,
I think
can
it's
I
time
just
to
say
rate.
too,
Oh yeah.
what I was just gonna say one more thing. What makes this even more heartbreaking to me, if it's true, is what a sad life. You just live even longer in this pain of losing your husband. And that's her fate.
A really
Having
long
to deal
time.
with that. So a really
Again,
long time.
because remember,
of living that
she
way.
did that for the first boyfriend, and that's what indentured her to Hades in the first place. So she had
Yes.
no soul, and then man,
She's got a pattern.
rough. There
you go.
Yeah, she does
Yep.
have a
Tragic.
There you
pattern.
go.
She needs to recognize that.
She needs therapy.
So
Okay.
are we ready to rate this?
Let's do
Yes.
Awesome. Spencer, you want
I'm-
to kick us off?
I'm just gonna guess that we're going to be a unanimous genius on this one. Am I right?
Give him some suspense.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
have to
say
go with-
genius.
Okay, I'm going plausible on it.
Oh, what?
Ooh. Really?
Yeah, after y'all give your ratings, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to
Well,
go with genius level, personally.
Yep.
I love this. I think it is so well thought out. I think there is so much clear evidence backing up this theory. They did a great job lining it up. I think it's genius.
And I always think
Yeah,
it works
I
if you're
will
only
agree.
talking about this Disney stuff. Like you can't. I know that we brought in a little bit of the actual mythology, but I myself
Right.
did some research looking into the actual mythology because I wanted to see if he actually like in the myth, whatever, that he gives up his mortality or whatever, and something different happens. Whatever, doesn't matter. But I agree that it's genius only if you're talking about, of course, the Disney movies.
Yes, I concur. Genius for me all the way, as long as it's Disney.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you, I'm
All right,
going
tell
with
us, Laura.
I'm going with plausible on it because I've got another theory that I'm going to say for next time Blythe comes on, actually posing the theory that Megara is Yzma
What?
from Emperor's New
Ooh.
Groove.
Oh, interesting.
So we'll
I can't
explore
wait to hear
Megara
that one.
again.
Yes,
if
I
I
love
could
it.
age and become Eartha Kitt, heck yes, sign me up. Come on. Like,
Yeah, for
Who
real.
wouldn't want that?
Pull the lever.
wrong lever!
I love
Squeak,
it.
squeak, squeak, squeaker, squeaker,
Oh,
squeak.
man.
Yes.
Okay, well, Lara,
Spencer.
Blythe,
Michael.
Guys,
it's almost time to bring this episode to a close, but before we do, I'd like to share a fascinating movie detail I discovered on Reddit, posted by user Pale Guy. In The Batman, the Batmobile jumps over cars because there was something in the way. Something in the way.
Oh, no.
Dang. Wow.
well done.
Well, on
You got me on that one.
got us all. Well, on that note, this has been Fan Theory Queries. I'm Laura.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Blythe.
And I'm Spencer. Join us next time for another batch of genius, plausible, unlikely, and preposterous fan theories.